Black swans, gray rhinos, colors are all very well, but frankly, the only color that we're actually interested in as business is on the balance sheet, and you want to see a lot of black over there and no red. With changing consumer preferences, shrinking loyalty, increasing competition, huge discounting in the fashion business, how do you stay relevant to consumers? And more importantly, how do you still make money from retail? I'm going to get my panel up to talk about this. Amin Kassam is Chief of Retail Operations at Shilpa Sharma. Sandeep Narain is SVP Retail Operations and VM at Max, the Landmark Group. Vishal Gupta, Director of Retail at Puma. Shilpa Sharma, co-founder of Jaypore. And to lead the conversation and moderate the discussion, Mohit, Dhanjal, Retail Director at Raymond.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to lead this discussion. As Anish mentioned, with shrinking customer loyalty for brands, with increasing discounting, and that being the second biggest trigger today for consumption in the apparel industry, and with rising costs, how do retailers stay relevant and also make money in today's hyper-competitive world? A few years ago, I would say maybe a decade or two, in India, we started this whole process of end-of-season sale. And the purpose was simple. The purpose was about liquidation of unsold inventory. And it started as a phenomena once a year. It was typically done for about 15 days. But what we have seen is over the last 10 years, the incidence of discounting has increased 10 times. And in fact, in the last 1 year, that incidence has even doubled. So from a phenomena of a 15 days period in a year, it is now, there are companies that sell more discounted merchandise than they sell full price. And looking at how the retail scenario is in India with limited real estate and cost of media, so it's not cheaper to be online than offline, because for you to spend and drive traffic, media is expensive and that costs a lot of money. It's as expensive as real estate. So how do you make money? That is the challenges that we face today. Apart from that, we also have this hyper-competitiveness. So if there's a brand that had a compelling proposition, very soon you have competitors who create products that are similar, and you lose differentiation. And once you lose differentiation, then how do you stay relevant? Because then you're open to market forces. So what we'll do is over the next 45 minutes, we would like to hear points of view across this panel. And I would like each member to share how they are managing these challenges in their organization. So let's start with Amin. So Shilpa Sharma has been around for a long time, and since 1991, it's also a leading lifestyle departmental store. It was the first department store in India. So how have you looked at this challenge, and how are you addressing it?
Okay, I don't know if anybody was here yesterday. I was moderating a panel yesterday, and if you look at the global trends in terms of KPMG did a very good paper. What will the next 5 years look like from here to 2022 in terms of what are the 5 game-changing factors? Discount doesn't come into any of those 5. First, the number 1 comes is customer experience. And many will say that retailers measure sales by sales per square foot. They reckon that the new measure could be experience by square foot. The second was artificial intelligence, which my colleague talked about earlier. I think there's a lot of merit in that, especially with the personalization and the segmentation of one. Third is the rise of discerning customer. Fourth is retailing of tomorrow is actually here now. And fifth, which is a relevant point to this question, is the juxtaposition of retail evolution between East and West, and East very much forecasted to overcome the West. We are in this dichotomy, and it's an evolutionary dichotomy, where the Indian market, as you quite rightly say, Mohit, is getting aggressively higher and higher number of discount days. So as a retailer, what do you do? Do you combat it? Do you compete it? And at what point do you start losing money or not make money? So our view is that, first of all, I think it's too aggressive. I think the holistic danger is that the more we intravenously feed the discount drug, the more the expectation that it's very difficult to change the behavior from there on. So how do you survive? How do you grow within that? And you can't be uncompetitive, because if you're uncompetitive, then you keep isolated, and equally it could be more costlier. So what we're focused very much on is on the customer experience, customer service point of view. We have a very strong personal shopper program, which is now in excess of 15% of our business. So what we find is a personal shopper, if a personal shopper addresses a customer and the journey, then now our ticket price goes up by 3 times. That tells you that there's an appetite for customer experience and customer service. I don't think there's a single dynamic to that. The second point is that in this market, I think discount is being used to drive footfall. So if you're getting footfall in my store or our stores, their objective is how do you optimize conversion? And optimizing conversion is one way of retaining or rather offsetting the cost. And secondly, it's also a much healthier way if you increase your conversion through very good service, strong again. I'll give you an example. There's a direct correlation that every time a customer comes to your store, somebody says, hi, that's an interception. The higher the interception factor, the more emotional connection to the brand. And our key mantra at store is a store's absolute output is conversion. Yeah? Because that's what the reason the store is there for. So the longer you make the customer stay in your store, the higher the dwell time, the higher the conversion, the items per ticket, etc. So and there's many dynamics that do that. One is how do you get your self-selection seamlessly? How do you manage your trial rooms? How do you engage customers? We give a basket to every customer who comes in the store. So there's many, many dynamics. So the answer to this is that I think at some point there will be some collateral damage. But how do we, as us as a retailer, it's a fabric and hygiene of the market. And we will do our best to ensure that our customers get the best customer experience in our store. And that's an ever-growing equation. But there's no easy answer to it, Mohit.
Thank you. In fact, I'll come back a little later to you to understand the personal shopper experience and how you build that as a repeatable model for your stores. Vishal, Puma has been one of the leading brands in India who, in spite of a large offline presence, jumped on to the e-bandwagon very earlier on. And you have faced some challenges with that. Why don't you share the thought behind that and how are you managing the duality of this business?
Okay. So basically, I think I would start the journey basically that about 10, 15 years ago, whenever a new channel of distribution comes in the market, the current channel faces some heat. But then both the channels try to go together. For example, initially we used to have only multi-brand outlets. And then I remember when I was in the previous company, we opened a full-price store in the same market. The retailer stopped buying our product. And I talked to them in the sell-in, ki bhai, what happened? He said, you have opened a store in the market. Now customers are not going to come to us. Okay. The next season, the retailer was back. So I asked him, sir, what happened? He says, now there's so much of demand for the product because of your store in the market, then I need to now stock your products. So what does that mean is that the channels of distribution will keep coming in and they will coexist. So then we had the advent of key accounts or the department stores, what we call that shopper stop, lifestyle. Initially they ventured out in the key metro cities and then in the hinterlands. So again, there was a little bit of disruption and then the existing channels faced the heat. But I think in the context of e-commerce, the heat is more because I think they have scaled up very, very fast, which the existing channels were not expecting probably, or we were not prepared. But I think Puma was the first brand which realized the potential of e-commerce. And I used to take care of wholesale sales in the northern part of the country. And I had a customer wherein he used to tell me that the reason why Puma has been so successful on online is because we realized the potential of the channel and we climbed onto the bus first. We were the first brands who decided that, okay, there is a little bit of discounting online, but this is a channel which we cannot ignore. So then we started realizing that how do we manage this concern? So initially, we were the first brand to segregate the line which was being offered to both online and offline channels. So first season we did that. The retail division again bounced back. But then we realized that the offering on online became very, very suboptimal. Because obviously price was the biggest factor on online. And we decided to give the cheaper products online. But then all the key marquee products which Puma used to have, whether it was the run, train, fit products, the motorsport collection, the premium sports style collection was not being offered to online customers because we felt that they would discount and so it would hit our offline channel. But that is, I think, is a very restrictive kind of business practice and it doesn't work. So then we came out with a suggestion that why don't we take the onus of investing in stocks on our own? We would do marketplace with these key products on online because future of the online is going to stay in this country and a lot of customers, especially the younger ones, are going to discover products online. And then they could decide to shop online or offline depending on the kind of experience which they are seeking. So with these marquee products being sold online and they were being sold through marketplace model by Puma, we controlled the problem of discounting. So the online channels were left to discount the products which they were actually buying. And because these products were not being sold to them, so we could marry both the worlds wherein the online channels were selling the marquee products which were being sold full price, and then the other, the cheaper products were probably being sold on discount.
So that's a very good way of managing distribution and your product lines and at the same time ensuring that you don't over discount.
Yeah.
So that's a good story. I'll come back a little bit about what we had discussed earlier, where you were driving, customer experience through your exchanges and customer complaint redressals. So I'll come back to you a little later on that. Shilpa, you have been a pure online player, and I mean,
as well.
yes,
Yeah.
in your present avatar, and while you do have a couple of offline stores. You don't see this challenge of discounting in your online stores. Can you share, your insights on how did you look at building traffic into your channel, online or offline, while at the same time providing an experience which was differentiated for consumers?
Yeah, so I'd like to start off by saying that there is nobody in this room or in the business of retail who doesn't feel the need to discount. There is always, some stock build up, especially when you own inventory. Coming to the online piece, I mean, Jaypore as a brand is really built on the strength of a commitment to showcase authentic, high-on quality, high-on design product. And that is a unique proposition in terms of, I mean, we have a first mover advantage vis-a-vis other players in the market and in the industry. And I think that the core of any proposition really is its MVP. For us, that in itself has been able to draw traffic. And of course, we have Facebook and Google to thank for driving traffic to the website. That said, once traffic is on the website, the onus lies entirely on us in terms of the customer's journey on the website and the customer's experience of the brand as she transacts. I'm taking the liberty of saying she because we largely cater to women. Yeah, I mean, the customer experience really drives the customer's decision to come back or not. And our own metrics online are a combination of our SOR model, which is our curated marketplace, and combined with our private label, which is fully owned inventory, where we have a certain width and depth of representation, and also therefore stock that builds up over a period of time. Some amount of attempts to minimize the extent of discounting, right? I mean, we don't want to be seen as a brand which is selling somebody else's work cheaper. Or to say that this is an aesthetic. For example, I mean, I was sharing with the group, a lot of our lifestyle product is really product that goes into some of the biggest lifestyle stores all over the world, whether it's Williams-Sonoma or Crate and Barrel and Pottery Barn. When we're showcasing that to, on our website, to our audiences here in India and overseas, we're not saying you can buy this cheese board on Jaypore cheaper than what you would, on Pottery Barn. We're curating a collection of product that we know people will like and people will want and people can trust. That said, creating some kind of a scarcity and a shortage helps. We always like to work with a very small, quantity of product at the very outset when we start showcasing it because we want to be testing the waters. So yes, there is an opportunity loss there in terms of, what you could have sold vis-a-vis what you actually ended up selling. But we've seen, enough and more times online as well as offline in my experience with brick and mortar retail over the last 20 years that, creating a scarcity for product does create a sense of urgency. Like the woman will want to, have it now. I may as well pick it up now because it may or may not be available. Or it's only available this weekend, so let me just have it. So that's one. But in the online space, we create, we open up, we have previews for our top customers where, again, there is limited edition product or there is just a window for 3 hours which opens up to, let's say, our top 5,000 customers before it opens up to the rest of the audience. And these kind of initiatives do help us generate enough and more excitement around product and minimize the need to be the situation where we're stuck with stock and then don't know what to do. Because the truth is that in a business like ours, which is largely online, the opportunity for liquidation outside of the website is few and far between. I mean, we can either do markdowns on our own website, thereby giving sweet deals to our customers, to our loyal customers. And sometimes, people who are aspiring to shop on Jaypore but find it too expensive and beyond their reach and so on, give them an opportunity to engage with and try the brand. But sometimes that's not enough. And therein then lies the need to really, exercise some amount of caution in terms of the stock we build up. Our stores, our offline stores have to be the finest representation of what the brand stands for. Some of you may have sat through the panel that I was part of in the morning along with Ganesh and a bunch of others. And we, talked about the fact that the offline experience of the brand has to completely convert the 99 people who are looking at us online and not shopping. So we can't really afford for offline stores to become a liquidation stop. Also, the economics of retail, in our country, as it is in the rest of the world, is very, very challenging. So stores to be EBITDA positive from the very beginning have to be delivering very high gross margins to be able to afford the rentals and salaries and so on and so forth. So yeah, I mean,
Interesting. What I would like to come back to you on is about, being a pure online channel, you do have high costs of acquisition with low conversions. And, how are you looking at addressing that through your offline stores? Sandeep, this is for you. Your point of view on, how are you managing this whole discounting and value-driven propositions, especially, with Max being a value format. Now you do have premium brands available, 6 months in the year available at 50% the price, and they drive a higher value. So how do you address this kind of a challenge?
What has happened is that with omni-channel retail becoming a reality, Max also took a leap of faith and became a omni-channel player at some extent, and we've had a website created, and we are in the e-commerce journey. In the last 1.5, 2 years, we're seeing our business grow on both the platforms, the offline and the online space, while the pace of growth could be differential in different spaces. The only fact is that while discounting is a reality, right, being a value fashion retailer, we believe our products are already at value. So there is no journey which can change for us. We cannot keep on going the discounting way. We always do it only for the sake of clearing inventory as part of the cycle of clearing inventory. So that is a fact in the way the brand has been built, and we are very conscious of keeping it that way. Few learnings which have happened over a period of time are that while tangible offerings and providing convenience are going to be a large driver, but they will become foundational. So we are trying to work on improving those aspects within our stores as well as on the online space by having whatever is right for the consumer. But two other aspects which we build on, which we build over a period of time being available in India, is that we have so much of consumer insight available with us. Thanks to the online space, we started learning from it. That learning is helping us reach out to maybe the most valuable consumers who come and visit our stores maybe 7, 8 times, and that's a rarity in a lot of retail stores. How do you manage and learn from those consumers and give back to them beyond just a product offering or a sales and discounting offering? And that's something which we've tried, and we've called them the most valuable consumer cycle and created personalization with them. And this is a journey which has just started, and we are seeing great results. The other thing is that how do we transient journeys between the online space and the offline space and take advantage? So we believe that a consumer who's shopped with us in the online space and the offline space delivers about 40% extra revenue to us on our business, and that's again something which is usually at full price. So there is again that factor of discounting which is getting down, and we are able to manage that part of the business that way. The other part of it is that we are also looking at creating stores a little different. While Puma also is looking at how to build experience opportunities, there are certain things which retailers on the brick and mortar space are getting pushed to learn by changing processes, SOPs, exit barriers and entry barriers for a customer walking into a store, because none of those are alive on the online platform. And those things are helping us to change and evolve over a period of time. Empowering the staff on the floor is a journey which has just begun. We believe that the customer is coming more informed than our floor people at this point of time, because they're doing a lot of research and coming onto stores. So the ability to try and give them education at a faster pace is something which we're working on using technology. So there again, we are using technology and getting information sent to them as early as the season gets launched or when the product is getting onto the floor. And these are things which are helping us to protect whatever periods are left as full price, right? And make the best of it, while discounting would be a reality and we'll still fight it.
Interesting. Sandeep, I'll like to understand this whole journey of your private label that you tried to do using, data science on understanding how consumers buy. I'll come back to you a little later. Ganesh, your presentation was very interesting, and how would you look at this profitability challenge from, let's say, from data mining and using technology? Because while key consumer insights lead to disruptions, it's always on the back of a strong technology platform. And how do you think technology could help retailers like us in today's time?
Sure. I think I am somebody who has actually made a lot of products. Many of them flopped. And then, of course, grew up, and my team did the same thing. Then I've been seeing this for many years. That's one of the reasons that I started this up. But let's look at quickly the math of fashion. If 100 is the MRP, right? If I ask anybody, what's your biggest budget? Very rarely I hear discount. If you actually look at, if 100 is the MRP, most of the brands are spending anyway. The best brand should be around 20%, around that. Or there are people spending maybe 30%. Now 30% of MRP, right? And EBITDA of the fashion industry globally is around 10%. 10% is a decent EBITDA. Now, if you look at 10% EBITDA is also net sale value, which itself is 75%, right? For 30% on MRP itself is some 40-odd% of. So I think we really need to take a hard look at why discount. And when discount decisions are taken, it's taken in flip of the coin. Somebody will call you and say, we are running a promotion, should we go ahead? Yeah, go ahead. It's almost like this, because I've been in the retailer space, and we used to talk to tons of brands, and whenever we said, oh, this weekend we are running an offer, buy one, get one free, or buy one and that, get that free. Yeah, please go ahead. Everybody's participating, I'm also doing. Now, the question is that, you mentioned, I think if you just look at the fundamentals of that, there are some good discounts, we should have it. There are, I would call this good cholesterol. The bad cholesterol is something we should remove, which means that if a product is not good, I think we should put discount on. If the product is good, why would you spend money on? Now, I think if you take the hard look at this and get back and say, why are we putting discount at all? If the bad discounts are because the products are not good. Now, how do you make good products? Now, fashion is one of the most challenging industry to predict what will happen 1 year from now and also get it right at a style color level. So it's a phenomenal challenge. So the only way today we can do is, that's the attempt that we are making. In fact, we did this as a pilot in my previous company and one of the reasons that I'm doing my my own company right now is, we did a pilot where we said, let's use data to understand consumer insights on products and use that to make products, put it up on the platform and see what happens. You won't believe these products actually perform 2 to 4 times better on rate of sale compared to other products. And that was a huge tipping point on my belief that data can really transform. Now, where I'm coming from is, I think it's all about, while I keep on talking data, what is data? Data sometimes looks like it's not for me. If you talk to a lot of creative people, data, I think it looks like another animal, right? It's for analysts. If you just replace data with consumer, what does consumer tell us? That's what we are calling data, right? If you look at data as consumer, I think there's nobody in the company anywhere will say no to it. So put consumer at the center of everything we do. And one dimension that we are looking at is product. And I think we need to take this to the next level and say, how do I use data to tell stories? I think the future of brands and retailers will be storytelling rather than product selling. Now, because the market is getting cluttered, too many players, how do you get attention in a short span of time? So storytelling is something. Now, how can you tell stories with data? So let me give an example. How many of you watch Netflix? Right. Now, in the second or third week, Netflix understands you better than anybody else. Now, how many such shops that we went the second time and third time, did they understand us as much as Netflix? No. Very rarely. Now, if you look at it, and people talk about big data, real world is small data. How many times we went to the store? 2 times. Actually, to the Netflix store, we went 2 times. Third time, they figured out. Now, where I'm coming from is, to understand a consumer so detailed, you really need to work hard in the back end. So I'll ask you now, if you have to describe a movie, how many genres of movies will you have in your language? 2, 3, 4, 5? Just guess the number of tags attached to a movie. Just guess the number of tags attached to a movie. Any number? Wild guess. 10?
About 30.
30. The number of attributes attached to a Netflix movie is 4,900. There is 4,900 ways to dissect that movie. Now, this is a hard, sweeping work. Tagging, right? Now, they did this with calling people from Hollywood and data scientists. It's a combination. To tag a movie, they made a 90-page manual. How to tag a movie even when the experts were watching the movie. So they did phenomenal amount of work to say, if I really... See, finally, in retail, there are only 2 things. There is a product, there is a consumer. You can dissect the consumer or dissect the product. Netflix dissected the product so much that even if you watched one movie, they know 4,900 dimensions of you. I think we just have to get it. It's a profound statement. I think it took a lot of time for me to get it. How do you understand a customer with very small data? Right? Every time we get this question. And they also did one more thing called genres of movie. Genre is just a combination of attributes. And just guess the amount of genres, 79,500 genres. We will not even imagine. For they understand us better than even we do. For where I'm coming from is, the people who tag the movie are not technologists. Right? For data is super critical if you have to understand the consumer in the future. And hence, everybody in the organization plays a role. The person who's welcoming the customer, the person who's selling to the customer, the person in the till, and the person in the warehouse, and people in the corporate. It is not an AI scientist job. It's not a data CTO job, CIO job. So I think data as a culture has to penetrate all the organizations and say that if each one of us capture whatever we can capture. We can use a lot of RFID and capture more. But I'm saying, are we capturing even? Today morning, I was talking to somebody. If you look at the column of customer mobile number, most of them are either 0000, 1111, or 9999. Because the transaction is over. Now, the question is that there was an opportunity to capture that data. If you could have captured that data, there's so much one can do with it. So for me, I think the message I want to share is fundamental data as a culture is very important if we have to understand customer deeper. And once we do that, we can either sense the demand properly, do the personalization at the level of one, or make products for everybody.
Thank you. I'm going to come back and, ask a little bit more about the culture aspect and how do you actually build this culture in an organization. But coming back to you, Sandeep, about, fighting this battle of discounting and profitability through private labels, and especially in a value format, how are you able to create a proposition that still has value, especially when, there's such high discounting that happens in the premium brands, which are now available at a much lower price, and how do you still stay relevant with your private labels?
So at the onset, one should realize that India is a great opportunity, right? So that's why everybody is talking about pace of growth and why so much discounting and why so many people coming in and establishing themselves in the country. So while we see that opportunity, first is that we've also not been able to reach out to everybody in India. So we are saying that there are two parts of India. One is the India, which is the modern metro, which we talk about, and there is a Bharat, which is an evolving, aspirational India, who has young, very aspirational youngsters who want to be part of the modern trade, who want to be exploring it. And I think online spaces have allowed them to get exposed to a lot of new fashion retail over a period of time, and which is a great insight for us also. While we have also gone out to towns and cities which we wouldn't have served ourselves with our stores, we have started learning that there are opportunities to go and explore those markets with physical retail also. Other than that, we also believe that there are the kid and the mother is our strongest keystone in a retailer like ours. And we studied some consumers in the last 3-4 months, and we spoke to young women who were professionals, who were working, or who had young kids. And they found our brand somewhere they could come and be their own. Now, this was something which we are now trying to understand. Why do they feel that coming into a value retail fashion space, they wanted to feel their own? So there are so many things which come out in their lives which will help us understand them better. While data is one part of it, that's how we try to reach out those consumers. We are also trying to create stores and affinity within that stores that the journey they seek is provided that. So I'm sure they will come, they'll have greater dwell time, and will spend full price. The kids, today, whenever we do a Max Kids Festival every year, and this will happen in April, May this year also, the opportunity of connecting with a kid beyond selling to a kid by creating a talent show, creating a Max Fashion Hunt, or creating something of value for the kid to show his talent has left a huge connect at an emotional level with our consumers. And you could go to a Mangalore, or you could do it in Mumbai. You do it in a mall, or you do it in a standalone store in Mangalore. The responses are huge, and they stay back with the family, the kid, the mother, the father, in terms of, yes, my kid was able to go and spend some time not shopping, but creating and transforming his own journey as a kid and growing in his town or city, wherever he was. And that is going to help us to try and create and build on that affinity for sure. Plus technology. So we're saying that we did a pilot on single view of inventory. We're saying we are exposing all our store inventory to all our online consumer space, right? Which is now becoming very foundational as a need. But we realized that our stores are getting at least 100 orders a day to serve consumers who otherwise online space wouldn't be able to convert, and these are all full price consumers. So it's a journey which both of us will have to learn from each other. Our online space and the offline space is starting to become one, and the convenience of both the spaces is also becoming one. And over a period of time, I'm sure the journey will allow us to try and break through this clutter over a period of time, including product innovation.
So from changing the narrative from just being a transaction-led interaction to storytelling and weaving emotion into the whole experience. So that's a good way. Amin, you had touched upon the personal shopping initiative, which now contributes to a big chunk of your revenues. So how have you been able to really build that? Because from a, let's say, a hands-off kind of an approach on a shopper journey to an indulgent shopping being provided at your stores. How have you done that? And how is it cost effective?
Well, let me just first of all start. The personal shopper journey has been a successful journey for us. But in short answer is, first of all, I own the personal shopper program. And I could probably tell you every single personal shopper in every single store. So my connection with our personal shoppers has, what has helped me is actually understand the DNA of a successful personal shopper. What we found is when we first analyzed our top, say, 20 personal shoppers in India, and one personal shopper, I won't tell you where he is, his personal sales will be 5.5 crore this year. That's the level. Our top personal shoppers will do 2.5 crore per personal shopper sales. So when we started understanding the DNA of our personal shoppers, my first impression was that it's going to be high fashion, really, really fashion conscious, etc. Actually, what I found was it's a completely different thing, and I was quite surprised. Not surprised, pleasantly surprised. Our personal shoppers, our best personal shoppers, are people who grown within our business. They were in the customer service desk, they were cashiers. So their interaction with customers are a very strong DNA. Secondly, when I found out the top 10, the real key thing emerged where they were genuinely nice, humble people. Nice in the sense that, you could tell the warmth of personality in the top 20. And then it immediately clicked that the customer of today has a chemistry with genuineness. And somebody who's genuinely and really look at the customer in the eye and make a connection with the customer. And I thought it was a fashion knowledge, etc. It wasn't that at all. Now we've complemented that in terms of very, very high fashion knowledge, conversational skills, engagement skills. But I want to touch on something also which is correlated to that which you spoke earlier on. I said earlier on that in this discount market, one of the key things as a retailer is how do you grow your conversion? I think that has to be a challenge for all retailers. But what we found is that, say a store is doing 30% conversion, and it's gone from 28 to 30%, and everybody gets excited, which is great. But you inverse the mindset and said, okay, then the walkout rate is 70%. So 70% of the customers in this digital transformation journey and age spend time, money, and effort to come to a store, and 70% walked out. Why? What do we learn from that? And we started now very much engaging with customers on the floor to understand the walkout rate style goes from department to department. If a customer comes into the store, on average might spend 2.5 departments. How do we get to 3.5 departments? The second thing is a mindset at store level where what emotional currency do you put on a customer when a customer has walked out to your store? What emotional currency of ownership do you have that in some degree we disappointed that customer today? And what do we learn from that? So we're doing a lot of work where we interface with customers within the floor or just when about to leave to understand where did we disappoint you today? So coming back to the personal shopper, it's not just a personal shopper. What we design now is that we have personal shoppers of a gold class. We have a silver class, which are now fashion consultants. And we have a bronze class, which are really into sales support staff to ensure that during when you come to evening peak hours, if you've got, say, 300 staff in a shop or stop, you might have during that time, 2,000 customers during that period. 300 can't engage with 2,000 customers. So how do you get your self-selection quotient very high, your sizing integrity, your stacking, your trial room recycling, all those areas? The personal shopper is a growing equation for us. We're very confident with it. And we see that as a strong way to build a chemistry with our customers and also the profitability angle.
So that's nice. Coming back to you, Ganesh, with the journey that Shopper Stop is facing, how do you think, a data mindset culture will help them in that journey?
So I think human is good at a lot of stuff. I think what we really need to do is that what is that we can delegate to machines, which can do better, right? And I just maybe walk everybody through one fashion of AI store in Hong Kong. Now, for example, if you walk into the store, you enter the store with your face being scanned. You have two options, 2D barcode or a face scanning. You can opt in. And the moment nobody is there, for the store knows who walked in, which means you've already logged in. All your details are there. The moment you walk in, and of course products are arranged in the shelf, the moment you touch the product starts to talk with you. Today what happens is that we need help because products are inanimate objects. You have to make sense out of a product, you have to take it out from there. What is the price? Find out where the price tag is and see the price tag and see whether it's cotton or not, check the content label, or you look for somebody around and you look for assistance. Just to talk about, why do you need assistance? Because products are not intelligent. Just imagine that the product now is intelligent because it has an RFID tag. The moment you take it off the shelf, the screen shows what the product is and full history of that product, where it is made, what is the content. Now the product is conversing with you, and you see the product, it looks very nice, and immediately tells you, with this product, these are the products which go very well, and they are located in this store where. Which means now it helps you to look at what are the looks, associated products. For you go in associated products and you pick the associated product. Now you say, I want to try. For you go into the trial room asks for, again, a scan. For the trial room knows who is getting in. For now you got a trial and scan. The mirror inside the store changes to complete your taste. It knows now what you have picked. For it's actually showing you all the details of the product, and you go and try, and you say, yes, it's not fitting on me. For in the trial room, on the mirror, you say M. That alert immediately goes to the salesperson outside. Now human comes in action. Now the human brings an M size into the trial room, and you are not moving out of the trial room. Now product has come inside the trial room, and you are trying it. Now what the store knows, who came in, what all he or she touched, what all he or she actually took into trial room, what came out of the trial room, and what went into the basket. Now before that, you come out of the trial room, you're not happy with what you got from the store, you're not okay with the variety. Now there are iPads kept there. You can now browse the endless aisle of merchandise of that brand. Now your assortment problem is also solved now. Now you are now ordering online inside an offline store and picking the merchandise which you liked and which you tried, similar color, and you order, that gets shipped to your residence. Now, where I'm coming from is, one, this is an extreme case of automation, but the question is, we have to ask, a lot of things can be done with pen and paper. I think we make it too much, right? If you just have, there are small stores, not too many people come. 50, 60 people come, and you just have a register. Who came? What's his number? What are his profiles? I have 5, 6 dimensions, right? What did they took to this thing? And you exactly can know at the end of the day, products where there is a fit problem, products where there is a color problem, products where there is a touch problem, and all of that can be communicated. I think when we say technology, we immediately get into RFID, and I think a pen and paper, and that's the data mindset is very important. I think the skill which is required in the future is that capturing every information, right, whichever form, right, you can evolve in that direction, it's going to be extremely important. And these unstructured data, now if I just tell you, there is a startup called, I forget the name of the company, and what this company did is, Government of India assigned a job and say, I want to have distribution of LPG cylinders in villages, right? And today the distance covered by a villager to get an LPG cylinder is 10 kilometers. Imagine they don't have transportation from village. If somebody has to have, a woman she has to walk 10 kilometers, carry that cylinder and come because there is no movement also. Now the job assigned to this lady was, can you optimize the position of the distribution outlet so that people have less walking distance? Now the problem is, where are these villages? What are their names? It's not standard. You go to the government offices, the village is called by name A in one area, name B in another area, all written in hand papers. Now, what the startup did actually is digitize all this information, unstructured information. Where I'm coming from is, we are not far off that a lot of Hindi and vernacular languages written in notebooks can be digitized and actually understand what's happening in those small stores in tier 2, tier 3 towns without having many of these technologies that we are talking about. But just the percolation of importance of data is something that I want to stress on.
Thank you. Actually, we are almost running out of time. So what I would do is, I will just summarize this discussion and then open up the floor for questions. I think what's been said is that it's important to have clear consumer insights, build a strong proposition, your product proposition or brand proposition, and then build a culture of data, data mind, so that you in everything that you do, you work with a vision of actually knowing your consumer deeper and sharper, And once you do that, then you would be able to find solutions to the problems that exist, like, for example, even profitability and all. I now open the floor for any questions. So if you have any questions, you can put your hand up and we'll pass the mic there.
I was wondering if organizing the business itself is a gray rhino problem. In the sense, when we organize a business, you have a marketing team and you have a sales team. The marketing team is interested in the product, that's their focus. They're interested in market segmentation. The sales team is interested in bottom lines and sales and may, in fact, dilute your brand offering because they're interested in numbers. Do you think that that in itself is a problem?
So, Amin, would you like to answer that?
I'm not sure, but I see the line of your questioning. If you look at our personal shopper program, our personal shoppers are absolutely ingrained that they have to be brand agnostic. So the whole objective is the customer, the lady or gentleman comes in, you do what that customer really wants and you advise them on fashion. We take them to a personal shopper lounge, some tea and coffee, and then there's a trial room there, and at their leisure, they can choose. I think the other way to answer that is when you put pressure on sales without logic, direction, and give inputs, then it becomes a numbers game. And I think that's where you dilute the customer experience. And I'm a British expat. So when my wife, she's British, she comes to some store she goes to, she feels intimidated that somebody's constantly watching her. I think we have to move away from that. And it's more about, when I do trainings with personal shoppers, and I say, I took the top 10 and said, sell me something, or engage with me. The first question was, within 5 seconds, can I help you? I said, immediately you're attacking my wallet. I said, first and foremost, get to know me, right? Build a chemistry with me as a customer. Then you have the right to ask what's in my wallet. So I think you're right what you're saying. It's about how you engage, how you train, and how you train your sales staff to engage with customers, first and foremost, not attack the wallet.
Question is for Vishal. Recently there was a video that we saw that there was a customer who went to a sport showroom and he wore a pair of shoes and he actually ran out of the store to feel how the shoe was feeling like, and there were the staff members running behind him, but he came back. The question actually is that, when you try to buy a pair of shoes, sport shoe, as compared to buying an apparel when you wear a jacket, you know how it looks. But from a shoe perspective, you see some of the brands that also take the footprint of your sole or of your foot and they customize it to design it to that level. From a retail perspective, is there something that you're doing to engage the customer in terms of trying a Puma shoe, wearing it, running around? Because whenever I buy a shoe, the design is great, but my worry is that what's going to happen over the next 1 week when I'm actually running? So is there something that you guys have thought around this?
So basically, customizing a shoe for a particular person would be very, very difficult because I think it's not like apparel which can be customized. But definitely when somebody is trying a running shoe or a training shoe, which we call, so we have treadmills in a lot of stores which gives the opportunity to the consumer to try the shoe. So basically, and this is what the sales people are also trained to advise to the buying consumer, that once they buy a running footwear or a training footwear, they should basically ask the customer to try it on the treadmill, which will give them the step-in comfort, the cushioning, and how does the shoe actually fit on their foot, basically. But to take a measurement and customize a shoe, because it's a highly mechanized process, wherein you have to have a mold, you need to have a size, which is for example, each size mold will cost you about 30-40 lakhs. And then the cost of the mold has to be amortized over a period of X number of pairs. So that would be, I think a long way. I don't foresee a customized shoe happening so near. But definitely we advise the consumers to try the shoe.
Thanks. Vishal, I've actually got a follow-up on that because one of your competitors,
Pardon?
one of your competitors tried doing that at their, I think it was in their Oxford Circus store. You could walk in and you could get a customized running shoe done for you. Levi's, I think, did the same thing with women's jeans. And they would customize a pair of jeans to fit your body shape perfectly. We've all seen those videos, we've all heard those stories. I just want to ask the panel, and Amin was nodding his head over there, how successful have those experiments actually been? So it's great in theory to say, yes, we can put the technology in. Raymond has done that with Made to Measure. But at the end of the day, does the customer come back? Does it justify the experiment? Does it justify the expense?
So we had this, for example, we did this experiment some time back. It was not a running shoe, but it was a shoe with something which is similar to what I'm wearing. So what happens is we put some kind of sole. Sole was common. Then the uppers were, we had an option of 5-6 uppers and then threads and laces and those kind of things. The only challenge in customization is the lead time between the customer ordering and he's getting the delivery. So I feel that when a customer is walking into a retail store, the thrill of buying the product and taking it with them is too high. And I think this is the biggest challenge in online, which online companies are trying to overcome, is that when you order and the delivery is coming from a warehouse, it takes about 5-6 days in India. But this is what they're trying to do, an omni-channel, wherein they're trying to, we piloted this project in 2014 where we did deliveries from the store, wherein we said we not only save the logistic cost, but we also try and deliver the product within 24 hours so that the interest of the consumer still stays alive. And we are not giving an opportunity to change his mind. And that's why they say that the returns in online is so high, because when it takes 5-6 days for the product to reach, the customer interest has already, I think, come down so much that he decides not to buy the product anymore.
Vishal, just to add, I think if you go to the US market, this is already in action. Nike has something called Nike ID. In Nike ID, shoe is a customized shoe. You go to Nike New York store, you can actually sit there. You can decide what should be the sole, what should be the upper. The shoe gets made and it's delivered to you right then and there. Now, how Nike is using this, I think it's important, because what you asked is customization for business? No, Nike is very smart. No, what they're doing now is looking at what New York store consumers are coming and asking for something and designing, which is not there in the store. It's a design idea collected from consumer. Now, consumer at the center of design process is the customization. Customization is not for selling more shoes, is to understand a latent demand which they did not cater to, which is coming through a consumer. And what they're now doing is looking at the kind of shoes consumers made, they're now making shoes which are reaching those stores in few weeks. Now, I think what is very important is we really don't know what we have not done. For how do we use consumer to collect data and using these customization tool? I think it's not about selling more customized shoes. It's actually creating mainline business and getting design ideas from the front end.
So thank you, everyone. I would like to thank the panel for their time and valuable insights. So thanks a lot.